Hi, my name is Brianna. Today I'm going to be teaching you about tarot, how I began learning tarot myself, and reading intuitive messages in just 10 easy steps. So first step to doing tarot is really picking a deck that speaks to you. My first ever tarot deck was one that was very earthy and it had animals. To me, this is the type of deck that I would be drawn to just because those elements and visuals really appeal to me, but everyone's different, so I really encourage you to explore tarot decks right now online or watch other YouTube videos that people describe their decks. There are YouTube videos where people show each deck so you can get a feel for what the cards look like and if it's something that you'd be interested in. Next thing you want to do is you really want to feel your deck. You want to feel the thickness of it and learn how to shuffle accordingly. Larger decks might require you to shuffle on the table or to move them around that way. Smaller decks are a little bit easier to handle. So for that, you might want to shuffle it on the side, going back and forth and in between. This deck is still a little bit too big for me because my hands are kind of small. So when I shuffle, I like to do it straight into my hand. Why I find this really important is because before you begin to pick a tarot card, you get in the groove by shuffling and card cutting. So when you're starting to work with tarot, you build up a little bit anxiety when you're shuffling and your cards are falling all over the place or they're not shuffling quite right. To me, that kind of gets me out of the groove, per se. Tip number 3, when you're cutting the deck, you want to cut with your non-dominant hand. So I'm a righty, I'm going to use my left hand. The reason why you use this hand is because it's your intuitive hand. It's the hand where you make more decisions through your higher self, or the hand where your guides communicate you with. Many teachers and masters will tell you that when you hold things and when you're receiving energy, you want to have your non-dominant hand up first when you're receiving. My next tip for you is when pulling a card, don't expect a certain outcome. That's not really why you're here. You're here to listen to what your guides have to say or what your higher self has to say. So when you pull a card, don't judge the card. Trust the card. If you're curious as to why you got it or you feel defensive as to why you got it, take a look at the guidebook or learn more in detail about what some of these meanings mean. I mean, you can really unpack a lot in just one card. It has to do with the suit, it has to do with the number, it has to do with a lot of things, the imagery. So don't judge your card right away. Another tip for when you're shuffling, that happens a lot and kind of can make you feel on edge with your decision making, is when you get a pop-up card. And a pop-up card is when a card just falls out of your deck as you're shuffling. Sometimes that happens like that. And I want you to pay attention to this card because for me and for many people, this has happened where this pop-up card comes right back in. You take it, you shove it back in there, pretend it never happened, and then when you're shuffling and cutting anyway, it comes back up. So, and if it doesn't come back up, it doesn't come back up. But there's a reason why it popped up for you. Your guides are trying to really shove a message in your face. So what I would suggest is for you to release that anxiety of, oh, I shuffled wrong, I need to put it back in, is to just look at the card, see what it has to say. Maybe you can add it to your spread. That's always an option for you to do. There's no hard rules when it comes to tarot, at least for me. My next tip for you is to not judge yourself for reading from the guidebook in the beginning. I find it important to read from the guidebook. There is an artist and an author behind this tarot deck, and they made this book to help you learn its language. Like when you open up a new tarot deck, it's going to be a completely different language. This guidebook is completely different from this guidebook, and things that I wouldn't know about my deck otherwise if I didn't read them. So if you're reading for yourself or other people and you need to use the guidebook in the beginning, you're just learning the language of your deck. You're not less than for doing so. You're learning, you're gaining knowledge from doing that. So I really, really encourage you to allow yourself to look at this in the beginning if you feel called to. My next tip, when it is time, leave your guidebook. You don't need it as a crutch for when you're using tarot every day or when you're using tarot for more than a couple of months. By now you should, if you play with your cards and your deck a lot, almost every day like I do, you'll start to understand the messages. You'll start to understand the messages. You'll start to understand what the meanings are intuitively, and the messages given to you by the author of the tarot deck. The more you play, the more you interpret, and the more you interpret, the more you trust your gut. So have fun. Don't get too stuck on needing the exact answer from the guidebook. You can do it. A great tip for building your intuition is by reading for others. You might want to start by asking family or friends to read for first, just because you're going to feel more comfortable talking to them, and you also kind of have this preconceived idea of what they might be going through or might be feeling. So it could be easier for you to interpret the card based on their feelings. Of course, when you continue to read, you really want to remove that aspect from it and purely just trust your gut and your intuition. But it's a wonderful way to start building your confidence when you start to read them more accurately and in more detail without them even realizing. The other day I read for my best friend of 8 years, and although we keep in pretty constant contact, there are certain things about her life she doesn't share with me every second. So when she asked me to read for her, I read for her based on something that I didn't know about, but she wanted to tell me. So it was kind of cool for her to hold off and to see what the cards had to say for her, instead of first just coming to me and then consulting the cards. If you're reading for yourself or for other people, do not ask yes or no questions. That won't really get you very far with it. The reason for this is because spirits and your guides don't really talk like this. They don't really give you yes or no answers, if you notice. They're a little bit too deep for that, in my opinion. If you really want the juicy stuff, you need to go deeper. I suggest if you have a yes or no question, you might want to rephrase that into a how can I, or what do I need to do in order to achieve this type of question. Last thing that's helped me the most is picking up my deck every day and just choosing one card. By opening up my tarot deck, I create a relationship with my deck, I create a bond with my deck, I create a ritual with my deck, and like I said, the more you play, the better you'll be. Obviously, you don't want to create an unhealthy relationship with your deck, where you need to ask it to answer for you on every single aspect of your life. There could be something every day that you need to hear, or you can just simply say, what do I need to hear today? And then you would simply pull on that. I hope this list helps you and encourages you to play with your tarot more. Please remember this: tarot is a physical tool used to tap into your inner knowing or your inner knowledge. Tarot is not fortune telling. Humans are always allowed free will. Because of that, moments can always change based off of what we decide. Through tarot, you will begin to allow your soul to take a front seat rather than your ego. So when you start to make more decisions for yourself, you can act on them in alignment with your soul rather than the ego, which is why I like to use tarot and why I like to use tarot for other people. If you're interested, I have a free PDF on my blog where it's a time for you to reflect on your spread. This PDF is for a mind, body, spirit spread, which would be 3 cards. On this PDF, I allow you space to create from your higher self based on your reading. It's a place for you to learn more about your deck and dive deep into each of the meanings that you received. And then there's also a place for you to write some action steps to start working on what you know and how you want to change. Lastly, if you want to get a free reading from me at the moment, I offer them on my Facebook page, which I will link below. I also have a blog where I talk about my holistic experiences and mindful travel to help people begin their own practices or to dive deeper into something spiritual that is unknown to them. I appreciate you watching this if you have till the end. If you like it, leave a like. If you want to talk to me, leave a comment. And I'll leave all my links below. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day. Let me know if this helped you at all or if you agree with any of these tips. I'll see you soon.